everybody. Welcome back to the Be That Lawyer podcast. Assuming that you're coming back and not a first-time listener. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. And again, if you've been listening for a while, two things I would ask. One is to let other lawyers know about the show. Don't be shy and don't be greedy. Share the the information. And also, if you get an opportunity, give us a 5-star review or give us a thumbs up or comment on on Apple, anywhere you can to help us promote the show. All so appreciated. We want to keep this sucker going, helping you to be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. And boy, we got a fun show for you today. I got Frank waiting in the wings. How you doing, Frank?
I'm good, Steve. How are you? How are
Good,
things in
good.
Chicago?
Yeah, things are good in Chicago. Getting our storms, getting our winter, summer weather, whatever. But all good. What I want to ask you, I think we met through you being like super complimentary to my social media posters. Is that how we met? You
I
were just
think
like,
that's how we met, but I think someone also may have introduced us that is a member of Provisors. And I
okay.
know we've seen each other in a couple of meetings that either I've guested on or you've guested on. That's how we kind of got to know each other a
Okay.
little bit more.
Got it. Got it. But I just want to make a comment that one way you can develop a relationship with someone new, whether that's a GC, a CEO, another lawyer at a bigger firm, whatever it might be, is to really identify, that they're posting on LinkedIn. And if they're posting good stuff, be complimentary. I'm not saying we all need our ego stroke, but you start to get on their radar and you start to build a little bit of a relationship, a little bit of a friendship, and then eventually leads to a meeting or a podcast like this or something like that. So I'm just putting it out there. Like there's more than a couple ways to skin a cat. By the way, do you know where that saying comes from? Skin a cat?
No,
You want
I
to hear
should, but no.
All right. So
Yeah,
we're not
tell me.
actually talking about cats, right? Because that would be weird. And why are we skinning actual cats? It
Yeah.
actually has to do with catfish. There are a lot of different ways to take the skin. They don't have like scales. They have skin to take skin off a catfish to eat the catfish. And that's where that saying comes from. So, hey, everybody,
Okay.
if nothing else, you learned nothing today from Frank and I. That's not going to happen. But if it has, you learned where that stupid saying comes from about skinning a cat.
That will
Um,
be my claim to fame today.
that's your claim. My claim. So we'll
Well,
share the
yours,
claim.
you
We'll
told me.
share that. We'll share the claim.
Right.
Now, another thing that I love is I love Michael Jordan and Walter Payton. Those are my two favorite Chicago icons. And we're just going to start off with a quote of the show, and it is from Walter Payton. And thank you for submitting this. Really great. When you're good, you'll tell everyone. When you're great, they'll tell you. And I just freaking love that quote. So first of all, Frank, welcome to the show. And second of all, tell us a little bit about why you love that quote so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be here, Steve. Really, really appreciate it. I always loved Walter Payton. I loved watching him run. I loved hearing about how he worked out in the summer to prepare for the season. And when I saw that quote the very first time, it just rang to me that, you know what? Everybody says he's great. He knows exactly what he's talking about, and he let his work show it. I mean, he was dedicated. He was from what I can have remembered, he was a true gentleman. Everybody just loved him, but he was great. And it just resonates with me that, when you do a good job, people are going to tell you about it.
Yeah. I think I try to either know if this is my memory or something that I just heard, but there's a toboggan hill right by where I grew up because the North Shore of Chicago is where a lot of the Bulls and the Bears and, a lot of the athletes live. And he would run up and down this hill with
Yes.
with a log on his
Yeah.
back or something like that. And that was like a
Yeah.
big thing that happened in my childhood growing up with Walter Payton. But yeah, probably the most fun running back to watch in my
When
lifetime.
he got his legs going, that's when he was just, the high kicks. Yeah,
But
that was
the
great.
high kicks, but also like put his shoulder down and like not take the hit, but actually make the
Yeah.
hit or make the block for the quarterback to stop a sack. I mean, just incredible,
Yeah.
incredible talent.
Yeah.
Um, Frank Rekas, you are senior financial advisor at Plutus Financial Partners. I want to welcome you to the show and would love to have you share your background. How did you get into working in financial services and also working with lawyers?
So working with financial or getting into financial services was pure accident. I was managing an Ace Hardware store. I did that for 10 years in Chicago, which is where I was born and raised. And I just needed to get out. And one day I came home, I had a letter from an insurance company. I opened it up, I read it. I didn't think too much of it, and I tossed it in the trash can. My wife came home from work, opened up the trash can to throw something away, saw the letter face up, pulled it out and said, "Are you going on this interview?" I go, "No, it's in the trash can. I think you better go." And from there on, that's all it
That is
was.
the craziest thing I've ever heard. Getting
I still
into.
have it. I still
Oh
have the
my God,
letter
that's so great.
from
Wow.
back in 19, I think it was 1991,
Oh my
because I
God.
started in June of or July of 1991.
Wow.
So yeah, I got my feet wet with an insurance company, been to two or I've been in insurance-based companies, my career. That's not all we do, of course, but it's really the foundation of what we do. And then as far as working with attorneys, I tell this to everybody who asks, it just happened.
Mm-hmm.
I at one of the companies that I worked at, we have what are called orphans. You have an account, but your advisor left. So I was given an account of an attorney, and I think if she was a family law attorney, I went out to see her, and I always say the same thing. She was a little rough around the edges, and I was kind of a little rough around the edges back. I'm like, well, I got nothing to lose here, so I don't want to be a pushover. It was in a nice bantering type way. I was able to help her. She referred me to another attorney. One of my colleagues at the office said, "Hey, I hear you did a couple things with some attorneys. I know an attorney. Do you want to come with me on an appointment?" Sure. And then it just kind of developed. And before I knew it, 60-ish% of my clients are attorneys.
Yeah.
And it happened organically. And I enjoy working with them. We have similar business things that we have to deal with. Similar mindsets from running a business, gaining clients, networking. And for me, it's very natural. And some of them are my best friends.
Yeah. I found very much the same thing with me, which was never thought I would work with lawyers and got, pulled into it with the recession of 2008 and 9. And when something clicks, like when lawyers find out that there's someone that specializes and has a percentage of their business working with lawyers, I think that, they're a special group. That's their, they are. And they want to feel like the person that they're working with knows them and their industry enough that they're not just, working in, everywhere. They're specialized, like they're specialized. And so I think
Right.
that's where a lot of it gels.
Yeah. And, a lot of people a lot of advisors work with doctors. I don't have one doctor in my book of business, as it's called. It's attorneys and, small business owners that I really enjoy working with.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do deal with lawyers that are struggling financially. They're making great money and they're not able to, you know, make investments in their business development. They're not able to make investments in marketing. They're not hiring that associate. And it's the business that may have difficulty with finances and then also their personal finances. And I think there should be, classes in high school and college for, basic finance and understanding personal finance. And of course there isn't or aren't.
Right.
So why do you feel like law firms owners are challenged by the financial side of the business? Is it just lack of knowledge, or is it that they're just, I don't know, it's just a different type. They're not really business people in many cases. They have to kind of learn that.
Well, not to be demeaning in any way, shape, or form, but I think, as we know, they don't teach a lawyer how to run a business in college.
Right. Or law school.
Or law school, and somebody even said they barely teach you how to be an attorney. So um, I can't comment on that. But I think they get so wrapped up in the running of their business, the running of their firm, working with their clients, getting new clients, being involved in associations, and then trying to have somewhat of a life and a family, that it just kind of goes by the wayside and becomes an afterthought. And they do a lot of their financial planning piecemeal. I'll buy my insurance from Steve. I'll buy my investment from Frank. I'll do this with Johnny. I'll do that with Susie. There's no coordination. And that's what I seem to see a lot. Or they'll be working at a larger firm. They'll figure out that I can do this on my own, and then they go on their own, but then they don't know where to start. Not only from the personal financial side, but also the business financial side. And that's why I like to also collaborate with what we'll call fractional CFOs, where they'll look at the business aspect of the law firm's business, and I'll look at the personal side of the law firm owner. And then we kind of do that together to get them on the right track.
Yeah. And, you know, it's again, how many hats can someone wear, right? They're wearing the bookkeeper hat, they're wearing the administrator hat, the marketing hat, the business hat.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
are there things that you're seeing? What are some of the things you've seen? Let's just maybe go back and hit some stories or things that you've seen that you just like shake your head and go, wow, I can't believe this has been going on.
I've seen where one of the firm's partners is paying the bills. You
Yeah,
know, back in the day when you would write checks, right? Where
sure.
now pretty much, even if it's automated, who cares? You shouldn't be doing that. And I get it. It might be a trust factor. You don't want certain people to have access to your accounts. I get it, but that's not really the kind of work that you should be doing. I think that's the thing that is glaring that I've seen quite a bit. They do their own marketing. You should have somebody not necessarily doing your own social media, but somebody doing your marketing for you. You should have somebody maybe doing some networking on your behalf. I've seen a few law firm owners down here that hire people to go out and meet people and talk about their firm so that they're top of mind when a particular situation happens. So I believe that they should try to stick to doing what they do best. And I think it takes a little bit of time to figure that out. It also takes money. You got to have the money to hire these people. But if you can get yourself to that spot, then I think it's exponential growth from that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's we always go back to the importance of delegation and finding what your true passion and superpower is. And if it's doing the law, then that's where you should really be investing your time. If it's managing people, then do that. If it's business development, do that. But when you're just trying to pay bills and you're doing the bookkeeping and sending and you're taking in invoices and taking in checks and you're spending your whole, half a day, doing that kind of stuff. I think those are the kind of the big missteps. And there's so many good options now for delegating. You don't need to do
Oh,
that.
yeah. Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's people everywhere that'll do it for, a relatively low amount. It just depends on how well you're connected in your community or how well you might be connected with other law firm owners or other attorneys who may know somebody. And there's so much information out there. And as you probably have seen, I follow a lot of attorneys because a lot of their ideas are actually even good for me that I can relate to business. So that's another reason why I think we gel very well together.
Yeah. So then what are you seeing? There's the business finance side of how you run a business and the KPIs and the investments and the cash flow and cash is king and all that. And I want to talk about that. And then I want to leak it into the personal finance side because there's two sides to this coin. And, one usually impacts the other, but there might be people who are running a real tight ship at the office, but still don't have any money at the end of the day, personally, because of a number of reasons I'm sure we'll get into. So
Yeah,
let's
right.
talk about the business side first. What should law firm owners be doing to run an efficient, effective law firm?
Get a budget in place.
Okay.
And I know budget or paying attention to cash flow sounds like we're going to put handcuffs on you, and that's not the case. Whether I'm working with someone personally or regarding their business, we like to use a cash flow strategy. We need to see what's coming in and we need to see what's going out. And that will determine, geez, Frank, I don't have any money at the end of the month. Why is that? Well, your Excel spreadsheet that we completed together shows that you're spending way too much over here and you're not saving anything over there. So it's watching the money that comes in. Are you overspending on your advertising? Are you overspending on other functions, marketing, equipment, rent, are you whining and dining anybody and everybody and you're not receiving any ROI on that?
Yeah.
You need to kind of take a look at some of those things. On the personal side, it flows the same way. how much, money is coming in. Are you paying yourself first? Have you established a retirement plan? And very importantly, what are you doing about taxes? I don't know anybody who likes paying them, number one. Number two, when you have to pay them, do you have the money to pay them? And, taxes is not something that's, you give it to your CPA on October or April 10th and say, okay, you got 5 days to give me my number. It's really a year-round thing. It's really planning all year long and looking at various strategies. I just had somebody today email me back. We had a virtual meeting last week, and I made a couple suggestions about sharing some ideas. And the comment was, that'd be great. What do you tell someone who does A, B, C, and D? So it's hard for me to answer that because I don't know enough about you. So I hate to use the lawyer answer and say it depends, but it really depends. You need to sit down and talk to someone that you trust and you have confidence in.
Yeah. It's so important to think about budgeting on both ends. I know that most people don't do that. I've been a little lack and just gotten, recently, my act together. I mean, the business side 100%, but the personal side, it's been good. We've done the 529. My son's looking at schools now and we've got that funded. And my wife and I have socked, a good amount of money away and all that. I'm a bit of a money hoarder in the sense of like, I don't need expensive boats and second, third
Yes.
homes and all that. I just would rather sock it away and let it work. But that being said, are we still spending too much in certain areas and can we trim down on our AT&T bill or on, am I paying too much for my car? And when I get the next one, am I going to lease or buy? Like make all those important decisions. Getting more money from my wife because she's going into retirement in the next couple of years. She's getting bumps that are like significantly more than she was making for the next number of years. Well, she's helping to pay the bills. Like I want to get more, make sure I get more of that, on top of what I'm, how she's helping normally. So,
Get a raise on your allowance.
I'm getting a raise on my bill allowance. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
all right. So I think, so are there some tricks to how people can look at their finances on their own to sort of figure out what to do and how to make improvements?
That's really a difficult question to ask because you may not know what it is to look for.
Okay. Okay.
I think
But I mean,
that's the
but maybe
biggest thing.
start with the business side. Like if you get a P&L, a balance sheet, I mean, maybe you're not even getting the proper reports and looking at the proper reports on the business side. I mean, is that,
Yeah,
are most lawyers even looking at those reports? Or are they just kind of having a month and then another month and then another month?
there's a little of each. Some of them have their stuff together and they're able to be on track, and then there's others that are just, hey, I had a great month, but I don't have any money,
Yeah.
or it's it's the thought that I had that escapes me now, but you're not profitable.
Yeah.
You got money coming in, but there's so much going out. At the end of the day, you're barely keeping enough for yourself.
Right.
And it
Right.
could be a lot of keeping up with the Joneses and the neighbors and your other colleagues. If somebody buys a new car, you feel like you need to get a new car. Somebody moves into a bigger house, you feel like you need to get into a bigger house. You shouldn't keep up with the Joneses. You got to do your plan and you have to create a plan. And that's where I believe that working with a financial advisor is very important. If nothing else, to create a plan for you, which is going to be your roadmap of how you're going to achieve the goals and dreams that you want. Because it's different for everybody. Maybe somebody wants to have a boat. Maybe somebody wants to do a lot of travel. And what is really retirement? Is it really getting completely out of the practice of law? Or is it something where you're going to cut back a little bit so you still have an income and you still want to draw an income? So you have to figure
Yeah.
out what it is that you're looking for. And I think that's a question that a lot of attorneys haven't answered for themselves.
Yeah. And that's so important. The idea that you're, budgeting not only for your business this year, but also looking personally at how much do you have to put away to have enough money to, fully retire or partially retire
Right.
and, um, in know what levels you need to hit. Because if you're not putting any money away and you are looking to retire and you got 5 years to go, and you got $75,000 in your savings. I mean, you're not being realistic about things.
Yeah. And the two biggest, I think, detriments to retirement are taxes, obviously. I mean, that's the biggest bill that you're going to pay over your lifetime anyway. But the other one that, and it's a hard conversation for me to have sometimes with people because they just want to avoid it, but it's planning for long-term care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it in my family with my mom and my aunt. My business partner has seen it. A couple of my best friends have seen it recently. You can wipe out a chunk of your retirement savings if you don't plan for it. And
Yeah.
I hope it never happens to whoever I'm talking to, but at least if we have a plan, at least we know going in what's going to happen. But you can look at spending $400,000 easily. And when you have a married couple, the natural thing is, assuming it happens to the husband, the wife wants to take care of him, doesn't want to spend any of that money to pay for care, and wants to provide the care herself. And you're not really trained or educated to do that. But the reason is that's your nest egg.
Mm-hmm.
If and when he's gone, I have to live off the rest of that money, and I can't sacrifice putting aside any of that because I'm going to need to live off of that. So it's planning for that really I think needs to come to the forefront, and I hope everyone's advisor is talking to them about that, because if not, you need to be.
Well, let's take it one step further. There's a secret out there that many people don't know about, which is there's the ability to take your death benefit and turn it into via a rider into a long-term care disability fund, right? So I've got $1 million policy, and if I die, my wife gets $1 million. But what
Right.
happens if I get hurt, or I'm incapable of working, or I need that care, right? I'm in my 70s, 80s, whatever it might be. Can you take just a minute or two and talk about that? Because I think that tip alone may end up literally saving people's lives and saving their fortunes, because they're able to use a death benefit for that instead of death. I mean, if I die, just to put this out there, if I die tomorrow, okay, and let's hope that doesn't happen, but if I die tomorrow, my wife's fine. Between the money we have saved, selling her home, whatever, and she's a teacher, so she's getting this huge amount of money for the rest of her life, basically, in retirement. She's great. Right. Okay. Now, if I get in a position where I can't work and I need full-time care, that's going to disrupt everything, but not now, because we have that rider in place.
Yeah, so they're basically hybrid life insurance policies. So you have your death benefit, and then there's a rider on there that will pay a benefit per month to cover the costs of long-term care. And essentially what that is it's an advance of the death benefit in those situations. If you had $1 million, the benefit might be up to 3% of that death benefit you could get on a monthly basis, which would be $30,000 last time I did my math. You may not need 30,000. You might only need 10, you might need 12, but it's available. So yes, your death benefit is shrinking by the amount of money that you're using for your long-term care benefit, but you have the benefit of having those dollars available, which then protects all your other assets. And I mean, that can make the difference between living a normal life and then scrambling around and end up spending down your assets that you don't want to. Yeah. Again, I hope nobody ever has to use that portion of their life insurance policy, but I'd rather have that in place than wonder, where the money is going to come from. Because my question is always, it would be, all right, Steve, if we don't do this, then what asset are you going to sell first?
Yeah. So I would say, whether you talk to Frank or someone that is an insurance specialist, to just bring up, say, hey, I wanted to ask you about a long-term healthcare rider for my insurance, for my current life insurance policy. And if they don't know what you're talking about, you probably have the wrong person. If they know exactly what you're talking about and they can either do it themselves or they can get you the right person, you're going to want to do that. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything. And it ends up being, something that could really be a game changer. So,
right.
Any final thoughts or things that people can do lawyers can do to really, make sure they're planned up for their future, before we kind of wrap up and get to our game-changing podcast?
I would say the first thing is you need to be organized. And by getting organized, that means you need to have a financial plan. And I'll work with people to do just a financial plan. We don't have to manage your assets. We don't have to provide you any products, but most people work with, like I said earlier, 3 or 4 different people. Nobody really communicates together. Get a financial plan, develop a roadmap so you know where you're going. Having said that, look to see, are you on track, right? And what holes or what's missing, or where do you need to actually beef up your plan to get you where you need to be? And then monitor it, on an annual or very regular basis. And the other thing too, and yesterday, because of what happened in the market, I'll say this: don't make knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah.
You have to stick with your plan. And there's going to be ups and downs in the market. Your money's going to go up, it's going to go down. But if you have a plan, stick to your plan and follow the guidelines or the guidance of your advisor. He or she knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you like them and you trust them, that's one thing. You got to have the confidence in them to make sure that they can get you where you need to go.
Yeah. And is it important to, last question, for them to be a fiduciary?
Absolutely. Because you want to have complete objectivity.
Yeah. Can you just take
Complete
30 seconds
objectivity.
and share what that is? Because there might be some people listening that they go, Steve just said something and I have no idea what the hell they're talking about.
To not get myself into too much of a compliant window,
Yeah.
is you really don't want to be working with someone who's pushing a product that's more likely for their benefit than it is for yours. You want someone that's taking an objective look. They're not tied into a specific company provider specifically. That you have the world of the financial industry to be able to look at, but they're taking an objective view for your situation. That's probably the best answer I can give without going too deep into.
No, I mean, the simple answer is they sort of legally have to be objective and take care of you. They can't, be the typical, car salesman that's just trying to push a product and squish
Right.
you into whatever it is their deal is that day.
My
So
my
yeah.
my joke is, the Plotnik 3000 isn't for everybody.
There you go. All right, man. Very good, Frank. So let's talk about our game-changing podcast. I mean, one that you did put in is this one called Be That Lawyer, but we'll skip that for now. Let's go to your second favorite, which is The Power of Zero. What is that all about?
So that's a podcast by David McKnight. He's written a number of books. Power of Zero is one of them. And it's really using different strategies to get you to the lowest tax bracket possible, which in many cases could be zero, but it's just using very different strategies and making people aware of what those strategies are to minimize their taxes, not only today, but especially in the future. And we don't know what tax rates are going to be in the future. I would bet they're probably going to increase. Do you want to pay them? I know I don't. So there are strategies, legal strategies that you can use, and they don't always fit everybody. But he talks a lot about the different methodologies of things that you can use and different strategies that you can use to lower your tax obligation. And I think they're not long. They're maybe 12 minutes at the most for the most part, but very knowledgeable. And his books are quick reads. They're very good. And I think anybody who's looking to minimize taxes, that's probably one place that you should want to look.
Yeah. And I'll kind of wrap up with this too. Like I have a bookkeeper that does really good books and gives me reports every single month. I know what my AR is. I know what my P&L is. I know everything's, all that. I have a great CPA and I have a great financial planner. When you put all three of those together and they communicate and they work together, you're gonna have all this information that you just don't have on your own, trying to kind of figure it out as you go. So think about what you're great at as a lawyer, and think about the things that you don't enjoy doing or things that are really not your expertise, and delegate them out and pay the money because it's worth it. It's going to come back to you in spades, because that extra time you can use for marketing, business development, management, whatever. Meanwhile, you're also, it's not really where your talent is. So I'm just putting that out there for everybody. Wrapping up with our sponsors. Of course, you want to check out, if you're a personal injury attorney or firm, you want to check out PIMCon, happening in September in Arizona. We've got Lawmatics helping you automate your practice management to the next level for marketing, and of course, get staffed up so you can delegate your way to freedom. Frank, if people want to reach out to you, they want to talk to you about what you do, they want to work with you, communicate with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm there every day, although I had a little bit of a burp today, which I'm trying to rectify. So,
Okay.
but I'm on LinkedIn every day. All my contact information is in there, my
Yep.
phone number, my website. It's all there in my profile. I'm happy to talk to anybody. You want to have a conversation, run a couple ideas past me, or have me share 2 or 3 ideas that I've been using for people. I'm more than happy, to do that. You can schedule it on my calendar link and would love to talk to you.
Yeah. And of course, we'll have all that in the show notes as well. So we'll take good care of that. But just thanks so much for coming on the show. I'm a fan. I'm happy that we're able to connect, and shout out to our provisors, family as well, nationally. And just thanks, man. I appreciate it. This was great. I think very helpful for people, especially ones that need to get organized and just currently aren't.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I'm glad we were able to do it, and I'm honored that you asked me to be on. So thank you very much.
My pleasure's all on this side of the Zoom. Thank you so much, Frank. And thank you everybody for spending time with Frank and I today on the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. Take care, everybody. Be safe, be well. We'll talk again soon.